Hi everybody, this is a red Arcane Bombardment deck that reuses burn, board wipes, and token creators, and then gets a sneaky advantage with Geistflame Reservoir to finish off the game. So I wanted to try a mono-red take on an Arcane Bombardment list, especially since we've got a new proliferate effect in Phyrexia All Will Be One. The proliferate effect and Arcane Bombardment pair really well with Geistflame Reservoir, and I've played this card in a couple of Izzet decks now to pretty good effect. I really enjoy being able to just sometimes take somebody out of the game for an 18 power activation of Geistflame Reservoir. So I wanted to see how this would work in a mono red shell. So you can see down here on the low end, we've kind of got the usual slate of burn spells and play with fire and lightning strike. And then we've also got 2 copies of Reckless Impulse. I've been playing Thrill of Possibility in this spot in some other decks, and it's kind of annoying when that spell gets countered and we have discarded a card already to pay for the cost. So I wanted to give this a try and give us some options in here, and it actually worked out okay. I kind of like this card. On top of that, we're running 1 copy of Gleeful Demolition. I wanted a little bit of extra artifact destruction in here, and I also wanted the ability to create some more tokens to go with one of our other themes in here. You'll see we're running 4 copies of Burn Down the House, which of course produces Devils and is an all-star in Arcane Bombardment decks. And then we're also running 2 copies of Mishra's Onslaught. This can either create some soldier tokens or give our team a nice bonus and help us close out games out of nowhere. Of course, we're running the red proliferate effect Volt Charge, does a nice 3 damage to anything, which is great under a bombardment, and proliferates, which is good for Geistflame Reservoir. Now, the only permanents in here that take counters are Geistflame Reservoir, of course, and a couple of copies of Blast Zone to take care of troublesome permanents, but you could probably tweak it a little bit and maybe fit in some Planeswalkers. You might also want to try out some electrostatic infantry from all the spells we're casting. Something like that might also go well in here, but this is the way I went. Also, at a commenter's suggestion, we're running 2 copies of Vampire's Vengeance as an instant, small to medium range board wipe. This card takes the place of something like Seismic Wave and gives us a nice blood token to help filter through the deck. Of course, in one of my first test games with this deck, I ran straight into a Vampires build, which I haven't seen in a long time, but, you can swap this out for some other things if it's not working for the decks you particularly see on the ladder. On top of that, we're running 1 copy of Explosive Singularity for some fun surprise burn out of nowhere. And then over on the lands, we've got 4 copies of Mishra's Foundry for some extra damage on the ground, a few copies of Blast Zone. We're trying out the Autonomous Furnace as a way to draw some cards instead of using the usual cycling tri-lands from New Capenna. And of course, 1 copy of Sokenzan to also get some more creatures on the board and do a surprise finish, little extra damage with Mishra's Onslaught over here to bump the team up. So let's get over and see a few of these games on the ranked standard ladder. I'll be with you for some commentary, but as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. All right, jumping right in here, remembering to press the record button this time. Let's get our Blast Zone down so we can take advantage of the few proliferate effects that we have in here. So far, looking like a mono-blue opponent. I think we can lay down our Mishra's Foundry. We don't have that many red-intensive spells in our deck. Just need to get to 2, and that's already taken care of with this Sokenzan in hand. Opponent's going to Impulse. Take a look at the top. If it's like other mono-blue decks in the past, they spend the first 2 to 3 turns kind of setting up their hand and graveyard, and then play out a threat. Unless, of course, they have a turn 1 Delver. But it looks like they recently drew into this one, so let's take care of that with this Cathartic Pyre. Try to get that off the board, make them spend some of their interaction early. All right, they will hit that with a Make Disappear, protecting the Delver. That is fine with me. That is 1 less counter for them to hit our Arcane Bombardment with, and now we are free and clear to cast Big Score, discarding our Explosive Singularity. Fewer worse feelings in the world than getting your big score countered and having already discarded the card to do it. Opponent with land number 4, going with the Mismatched Islands plan, I see. And there's the Haughty Djinn. Only a 2/4 now, but can definitely grow pretty quick. Delver will get in for 1, bring us to 19. So they've got 1 mana left and that 1 mana discount from the Djinn, meaning they could have all kinds of interaction or 2 mana counterspells up. We could try to tempt something out with this big score. I think that makes sense. Maybe get a little bit of a mana advantage and be able to sneak past a make disappear on a future turn. Do multiple things at once, which they sometimes have trouble dealing with. Opponent definitely holding a 1-mana instant. There's Consider. Is it worth it? It might be. Let's Vampire's Vengeance. Here's that scenario with two things at once we were talking about. So now that they're tapped out thanks to Consider, don't have to worry about them protecting their only creatures. So it took 2 cards to do it, but we got rid of 2 of theirs. Seems like a fair trade. And now we've potentially worked our way up to Bombardment in the next couple of turns here. Opponent with a thirst for Discovery. Gonna go drawing some cards, maybe filling up the graveyard for another Djinn. Possible Tolarian Terror time here. Alright, there's the Terror. We can deal with that. We've got ways of dealing with that in here. But let's get Bombardment down. Okay, perfect. We exhausted their available supply of counterspells. A lot of the interaction they play is focused around protecting their own creatures. So if we can get the few things like Make Disappear, the odd negate out of their hand, and land a Bombardment, we're in a great shape. But they got 2 Tolarian Terrors and a Djinn down. So let's use Reckless Impulse here. Maybe take a look at the top of the deck. See what Bombardment gets us from down there. We are going to need some assistance if we're going to survive more than, well, 1 turn here. All right, we pick up a big score, and then Reckless Impulse just pulls 2 lands off the top, one of which a Foundry. Well, let's go ahead and play this Mountain. This game is not going to be won off the back of Mishra's Foundry. So we've got some options here. We don't have enough burn to take care of those creatures. Opponent's going to thirst, go looking. Great plan before combat, so they have everything they could possibly want to protect their stuff. We can use this Mishra's Onslaught and create a couple of tokens to block the terrors, and then we will only be on the hook for the Haughty Djinn damage. They will dissipate the dissipate the Onslaught, but we can get Vampire's Vengeance, and of course Big Score, which was already there. No response from the opponent. We get Gleeful Demolition. So we've got this Volt Surge in our hand. Let's try and shoot the Djinn, because that's the thing that can grow big and out of control. They've got to Make Disappear for it, but we've got 2 treasures available. They might have mistaken those for the blood tokens that we've been making with the Vampire's Vengeance. We'll put another counter on the Blast Zone. That's going to be a safety valve. We're at 4, so we need to deal... Hey, you know, sometimes it's just waiting for you there on the top of the deck. We'll burn down the house here. Do 5 to each creature. Opponent probably out of interaction here. And yeah, Vampire's Vengeance is kind of whatever. We've already got blood tokens. Volt Charge goes to the face. We'll put a counter on Blast Zone, and the Tolarian Terrors are down. Opponent left with 1 card in hand, and we'll play this Foundry that we've got left over. We had a choice there. We could either Geistflame or Big Score. I want to keep up Big Score to activate Bombardment with, now that it's got so many things. Ooh, Flow of Knowledge. Draw a card for each island you control, then discard 2 cards. All right. Well, that's a good way to gas your hand back up there. Opponent going to Impulse, though, so they must not have picked up another Terror yet. And we are threatening to pick up Burn Down the House with each activation of Bombardment, making those threats a little less worrisome each turn. We'll discard our Gleeful Demolition to this initial big score. Hit our opponent with a Lightning Strike, Volt Charge. We'll play this other big score, get rid of our duplicate bombardment, and we'll just leave Vampire's Vengeance alone for this moment. Volt Charge means Blast Zone gets a counter, another Lightning Strike to the face, and we pick up big score. Sorry, with big score, we pick up Burn Down the House. Let's get our Geistflame down. Burn down the house. We're going to make some devils. And let's see what all this comes out to here after all the triggers are said and done. We're going to do Lightning Strike and Volt Charge again to the opponent's face. Discard our Reckless Impulse to our copied big score. I think that's enough for now. So Geistflame is going to pick up a few counters. We'll add another counter with the proliferate effect. Lightning Strike brings our opponent to 5, and then we've just made 3 devils. So we've actually just got enough counters on Geistflame to take care of it without even attacking. All right, timely burn down the house, made it all work out. Good game. Okay, opponent's going first. Can't keep a 2-lander. This one's fine. We'll get rid of the Autonomous Furnace. It's been okay. I will say that. It's been okay. It's not fantastic. We're going to get a Mountain down. Kept this hand because we've got a Geistflame Reservoir here, which is so good to get down on turn 3 and just sort of get that compound interest going on each of our future turns. Nothing from our mono black-ish opponent here. So we'll keep up our Play with Fire, Cathartic Pyre here. Try and keep the board from being too threatening. Land number 3 from us means it's Geistflame Reservoir. Good luck dealing with that if you are mono black. Archfiend of the Dross. Alright, well, being a kind of burn-focused deck with burn-focused removal suites, that's going to be an interesting one to get rid of. We'll pass it back to our opponent. We played out our Sokenzan here. Might be a scenario where we have to burn 2 cards on this Archfiend. So they're going to try to pump it up here, bringing it to 8 power. They'll be able to do that again next turn. All right, let's big score. If we can pick up an untapped land, there's the possibility of doing an Arcane Bombardment. And we're going to discard Voltage, or Volt Surge, rather, to maybe pick that up. So yeah, an untapped land would leave us with 7 mana. We could Arcane Bombardment and then play with Fire. But we just get a big score. Yep, burn down the house. Not big enough to clear that threat out of the way. Life of Toshiro. Going to try to pump it up again. Yeah, we're going to have to use 2 cards on this. If they get us low enough, and then suddenly we're in Invoke Despair burnout territory. Shieldred gets even more dangerous, because we like to draw cards. So let's give this a try with that activation of Toshiro on the stack. Great. So our 2 spells take down the Archfiend. Opponent looking at 6 swamps over there. There's the Invoke Despair. You might want to hold on to that once you realize what we're playing. But yeah, that would have probably just finished us off there had we not taken care of the Archfiend. So there's our untapped land. Let's get Arcane Bombardment down. Toshiro's going to flip over. Invoke Despair won't do it here. And they're going to go with a big Flesh Gorger. Alright, let's target the face and get a Scry for us here with Play with Fire and activate Bombardment. We need to get this train rolling if we're going to deal with these threats in our opponent's 5-card hand that they've got left over. We pick up a big score with Bombardment. Take a look at the top. Vampire's Vengeance, not going to cut it. Opponent just down to 18. Well, luckily we've got Burn Down the House, so that'll clear this board for now. Get a couple of activations on our Reservoir and our Bombardment. Big score. We can clear away this... Yeah, maybe this Abrade. I'm not going to be targeting that artifact that they've got over there anytime soon, and Cathartic Pyre could help us out of a situation if we get stuck with some extra lands in our hand. We can also cast it on an empty board. There's Invoke Despair. Alright, let's Volt Charge. We might have to pivot to the Reservoir plan. And this would put a bunch of counters on there. Get one last little morsel of value out of the Arcane Bombardment. And let's cast Abrade on our treasure. Actually, let's cast both Abrades on our treasure. They don't care whether the treasure is actually there until it goes to resolve. And we'll discard, I guess, this Pyre. We've got our backup Bombardment in hand. These Abrades will go off. Volt Charge goes off. Puts another counter on the Reservoir. Opponent hits us with Invoke Despair finally. Bombardment number 1 down, and we are at 2 life. But our Reservoir is big. There's a shot we could get him down. Oh, there's a Trespasser from the opponent. Is there a creature anywhere? Let's see, there's been the Life of Toshiro. They've got their own Flesh Gorger. But they're getting rid of our Bombardment. Friend, do you not know how Mono Red works? Okay. Play with Fire on our opponent's face. They could have just gotten us to 1 there if they had removed their own creature from the graveyard. Let's get rid of this other vampire's... it is a spell. Let's see. No, we actually don't even need that. All right, so Play with Fire takes them to 13. There are now 13 counters on the Reservoir, and we just squeaked by. Even if the opponent had done the Flesh Gorger trick, we would have been at 1, and they would have been at 14. We still would have had enough mana to take care of it. Good game. I mean, this looks pretty good. Let's go with this. Opponent looks like a mulligan over there. Turn 1, we'll keep up Play with Fire. Got a nice progression of spells in our hand here as we look to Geistflame on turn 3. And then start putting token counters in the bank on that one. Rot Priest. Gonna be one of those games. Well, let's make him have it. Opponent gonna shore up. Well, that puts us to 2 poison counters, but they're tapped out. Meaning this Volt Charge can take care of the priests. Will, however, take us to 3 poison counters. Yeah, I'll leave ourselves at 3 poison counters, thank you. We pick up a tap land, but that's okay. Probably just going to Reservoir next turn unless we get something better. Opponent with Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief. Let's play out our Reservoir. Opponent having a good think. Reservoir lands, we'll play the Autonomous Furnace. And hopefully, opponent doesn't have too much more. All that, another Rot Priest. And all that stopping on the end of our last turn indicates they've got a 1-mana blue instant in their hand, likely to protect their creatures. We just pick up Bombardment number 2. No 5th land for Burn Down the House yet. So I think we're on big score. If we can find a window to cast it. We'll at least start getting our Reservoir some counters. And we go up to 4 poison. We can discard our extra Bombardment to big score. We get a Mountain and a Reckless Impulse. Okay. Well, we're up to 5 mana. The Gleeful Demolition not going to help us with this flyer on board. Let's try to get Bombardment down. We might be able to just cast this, targeting the treasure that's supposed to cast it. So we'll get no effect, but we'll activate Bombardment. Oh, that feels weird. Alright, we pick up a big score. We can ditch the Reckless Impulse. Kind of the same effect. And we get back up, burn down the house. That's going to be great. Alright, let's... Let's try to shoot something down right now. We'll do 3 in case they've got like a green effect that pumps a creature up instead of a blue effect that like protects it with hexproof. Okay, they've got shore up anyway. That will also hit Ivy, meaning we get some more poison counters from the Rot Priest, who is now hexproof. So we're up to 6 poison counters. Opponent's got Ivy and a Rot Priest. Plays Mercurial Spell Dancer and is left with 1 card in hand. We go up to 7 poison counters. I think we got to try for this burn down the house. Just hope they're out of stuff. They're going to slip out the back on the Rot Priest. That puts a counter on the Spell Dancer. And we'll target Ivy. We are at 9 poison counters. Bombardment picks up Reckless Impulse and Big Score, so we'll discard our backup Impulse in our hand. We pick up another Burn Down the House, a Foundry, and 2 Autonomous Furnace from the Reckless Impulse. So we've got our opponent empty-handed. Let's put a stop on the draw step here. So before our opponent draws, but after their stuff has phased back in, we can activate Reservoir again and target the Rot Priest. Okay, we get no counters because it's not a spell targeting that. And so now we've just got to deal with this Ivy, who's going to start taking chunks of our life total. Ooh, and a combat research. That will let them draw a card each time Ivy hits us, which is not ideal. We draw Cathartic Pyre. Well, opponent's still empty-handed here. Let's burn down the house. Volt Charge gets picked up. That can go to the face. Big Score, and opponent's seen enough. All right, we got there. Good game. All right, a little land heavy, but not the worst. We don't have a Reservoir, but we do have a Pyre if we need to start taking our chances to try to draw one. Opponent with a Terramorphic Expanse. All right, we'll get Blast Zone going. Pass it on back to the opponent. Terramorphic Expanse number 2. Let's see what color they pull out with that. Black. Those expanses made me think it was a reclamation deck. Let's play out our Autonomous Furnace. One of the few tap lands we're running so we can start casting everything else on time. Bloodfell Caves means our opponent's at least on 3 colors here. Play our Mishra's Foundry, pass it on back. We've picked up a Bombardment, so now we're just trying to get up to 6 mana and live to tell the tale. Opponent casts Fable on 3. Get a Goblin Shaman and plays the black and red tap land from New Capenna. We'll just play a land and pass it back. I'm kind of not sure what the opponent's doing, so I'm okay with them having this Shaman for now. Blade of Shared Souls, though. Ugh, I'm not up to speed on all of the combo decks. And, okay, Solkanar. That is a little big for the burn we've been holding on to. and they get to choose one of Solkanar's mode at the end of their turn. So they're going to draw, and eventually we're gonna get that if we survive long enough. Land number 6. Let's go for bombardment while they're tapped out. We'll see if they are running not big score. If they're running Invoke Despair, like they should be in a deck running that much black mana. Bankbuster. Their Fable has flipped over, so they can probably crew that up. They're going to cast No Way Out on us, so we're going to have to discard 2, and they'll make a Decayed Zombie token. We're going to discard 1 land and Mishra's Onslaught. Give us something else to pick up with Bombardment down there. One way we might be able to come back with this is making tokens and then making them huge from out of nowhere. Solkanar is going to drain us, gain them a little bit of life. We just draw another mountain. Well, they've got 11 power on board. Let's take out the flipped Fable, prevent them from doing anything too nuts next turn, and we'll make a couple of tokens with this Mishra's Onslaught that we just discarded. Fable down. We've got Lightning Strike to activate Bombardment with on our opponent's turn. Hopefully we can just chump block Solkanar, and then we'll only be on the hook for a little bit of damage from the leftovers. Opponent drawing with the Bankbuster, not happy with the full grip they are sporting over there. Opponent plays a Soul Ripper. And gets in just with a Shaman. Why? Well, I'll make that trade. If you're not going to attack with Solkanar, that's fine with me. One of our outs to this situation is burn down the house, and those tokens will definitely perish in that flame. Alright, with the Solkanar trigger on the stack, let's Lightning Strike this zombie token. We get Cathartic Pyre. Onslaught as well, already under there. We'll make some tokens. Let's use Pyre to discard this useless mountain. We get another Cathartic Pyre, and then strike down the zombie token. Let's use Autonomous Furnace to draw. We get Volt Charge as well. Okay, cool. So we've got an Onslaught under there. There's a Lightning Strike only in our graveyard. Let's Reckless Impulse and see what else we can find. Let's see. This is Bombardment, so we will Pyre and Lightning Strike on Solkanar. We'll use Mishra's Onslaught to make some tokens. Looks like their plan is to sacrifice Solkanar to the Soul Ripper to prevent us from getting it. But let's leave them with no creatures, make it difficult for them to crew up their 2 vehicles that they've got left over. We can get in with at least 2 of these. I think we're good. So we've got instants to activate Bombardment with. Alright, there's the Blade of Shared Souls. For Mirrodin, gonna put that on a creature token immediately. Life of Toshiro. Been seeing that one a lot lately. So they're going to target one of our creature tokens with the -1 ability. And looks like that's all they're doing for the moment. Let's see, the Blade, just checking on how much it costs to crew up somebody else there, or equip somebody else. Let's Volt Charge that creature token, get a Bombardment activation going. That's what we're here for. So Reckless Impulse, Lightning Strike to the face, Onslaught for the tokens. We'll pass on the Pyre. Let all these things resolve. We will put a counter on Blast Zone. Alright, Opponent at 19, we're at 9. We've got 5 creature tokens. We might be close enough to attack our opponent out of the game with this Onslaught. Let's see. If we burn down the house, make some tokens maybe? Because we can't tap our stuff for this Singularity and have enough creatures left over to get the bonus from the Onslaught. So let's burn down the house. That activates Bombardment, picks up a Volt Charge. That's going to help the math. We'll Reckless Impulse, Lightning Strike to the face. Mishra's Onslaught. Creatures we control get +2/+0 until end of turn. Unfortunately, can't order that in a way that also buffs the devil tokens, but just with our soldiers that we've got on board, that's 15 points of damage already. Burn down the house resolves, and looks like we are swinging in for 18. All right, snuck it in there. Good game.